So today is January 24th, 2022. My name is Luciana Spraker. I'm the director of the City of Savannah's Municipal Archives, and I'm with Eddie DeLoach, former City of Savannah Mayor. We're sitting in the council chamber in Savannah City Hall today for our interview. Thank you for joining me today, Mayor DeLoach. We are going to start off with some background questions, then talk about your experience growing up in Savannah before diving into your career and time as a public servant, both with the county and the city. So let's start with what's your full name?
Eddie Wayne DeLoach.
Okay, and when and where were you born?
I was born in Ludowici, Georgia, 1952. It was May 26, 1952.
Okay, so did you spend your early years in Ludowici?
We moved from there. My mother was staying with her mother whenever my dad was in the military, and he was stationed with the Air Force. And so she stayed at home, and then I was born there outside in Long County. And then they eventually moved here to Garden City, Georgia, back in the 50s.
Okay. You often talk when you're giving speeches about the influence of your parents. So I was hoping you could tell us their names and talk a little bit about their professions and how they impacted both you and their communities.
Okay, my first one in his course is Daddy. James M. DeLoach, Sr. Had a profound influence on me growing up because I understood two things. I understood what it meant to work and work an honorable job, and I also understood what it meant to help folks that were less fortunate. And I was blessed to be with that type of family growing up. We got most of that from our experiences at church, at Garden City Baptist Church. I grew up there and left there after college, but all of my formative years were there. And as a deacon and as a person of the church, you were expected to and did, because you wanted to, things for folks that were less fortunate. And not only that, but you also were in a leadership position. And I learned and watched how he did that and how people formed coming through the deacon's position and becoming a strong leader in the community and in the church. And of course, my mom, back when my dad had cancer, and there was 4 kids at the house, and my mom did not have a 4-year degree. She had a degree in secretarial degree from Drones College, but she did not have a regular degree. And Dad was really, there was a chance we was gonna lose Dad. And whenever that happened, Mama realized that something had to be different because she didn't want to have to raise 4 kids without a good job. So she went back to college. About the same time I went back to college and got her degree in teaching. And I watched her and the impact she had on so many people that today I can't go anywhere without somebody of many ages telling me, I know your mom. Your mom had such an influence on me. How I think discipline was the biggest thing that she developed in kids, and she told those kids every day how much she loved them. And I think that kids need that every day, and they need it from their parents mostly, but anybody can have a big influence on people if people know they care. And I think my mother, that's the biggest thing I can say about her. She influenced people by being a common sense person and doing common sense things to help people out. And that's what I learned from both of them. That's where my experience came from.
And what was your mother's name?
Virginia. Yeah, married in Virginia, but Virginia Loach, V, all kind of different names, but mostly V.
Okay. And your father was active in he was a local political leader as well.
Yeah, he worked for the Savannah Electric Power Company, and that's whenever a lot of people got off to work for, would go and actually work in the communities. They pushed that and added made a lot of influence on people and giving them the ability to be able to go into the communities and work. And Daddy started out as a councilman in Garden City. And through there, he became mayor. And eventually was asked to run for county commissioner, and did, and won. And had 12 years of wonderful experience as commissioner, and then I had the opportunity to follow him in that, and it was just being able to help folks and that can't help themselves because they, might not know how the system works, has been a great influence on me and all of our family, and the ability to be able to help folks that need it.
Okay. So let's go a little bit back. So as a child, you mostly lived in Garden City?
Yeah, I grew up in Garden City. I went to Sprague Elementary School out there, of course, and then I went to Mercer, and then I went to Groves, and I left there and went to Berry College, and went 4 years there. So that was my educational background. It was a wonderful time. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better experience as a kid growing up in that neighborhood. We were, Savannah has neighborhoods and they're real tight. Well, Garden City was sort of like a neighborhood, the whole Garden City. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody knew what church everybody went to. You had a church you went to, and you just basically surrounded yourself with people that were just wonderful people to be a part of, and not only in the white community, but the black community the same way. I mean, we knew everybody in the black community. We knew everybody. We just knew everybody, and those so it was really a tight-knit community that really worked hard to make everybody have an opportunity. And that's the biggest influence I had, was that group of people reaching out and bringing people along that otherwise would not have had the opportunities they did. And really made a big difference in my life, watching those folks reach out and make people and give people an opportunity. And they don't forget it, and neither do the people that did it. MC Anderson was a big one in our community back then that my dad knew, and reached out and did wonders for people that most people never knew he did a thing. But he had a great influence on our community.
And what are some examples of some of the things that he did?
Well, you take, so Garden City, we weren't as blessed as Savannah as far as there's a working class group over there. We had Groves High School. They didn't have a stadium. Well, the community came together and built the stadium. It wasn't the city. It wasn't the Board of Education. It was the private citizens coming together. We had steel directors come in there. There's a company that was owned by Pete. He was there to put up the steel. My dad climbed the poles. People come in there and built this. We bought and had dinners and all this other stuff to come up with the monies to make these stadium seats and all. And started out with board seats and then went to aluminum seats. And it's just that community worked together to make things better for everybody in that community. And that was one of the biggest examples I know of. Was that coming together and doing something that large and that big, impactful in the community, and just basically said, here it is, school board, you can use it, and they had an opportunity. We had a great field and a great place to do ball.
Okay. So you said you went to Berry College. What did you study at Berry?
I had a double major. I was going to be the F. Lee Bailey. I was going to get my jet, fly in, do all that stuff, and. So I went to school, and I worked really hard at having a good time and did a good job at that. And in some parts, history was just my favorite subject, and political science. I always loved it. And so I decided I was going to go to law school, and I went and took LSAT. Well, they weren't as impressed with my scores as I was, and so I went to try to apply to Georgia and Mercer and the schools here in the state, and didn't make high enough on the LSAT to get in the door. So I had to make a decision on what I was going to do, and that's when I left and decided to go into management with Kaiser Chemical Company. And I did that for 9 years before I started the business I'm in now.
Okay, and tell us about the business you're in now.
Well, that business was, I was transferred in several states with Kaiser, and I ended up in Wilson, North Carolina. And enjoyed the company and learned a lot, learned business and all the ways you know how you do business, and it was a great opportunity for me. And but I always wanted to be in business for myself, and had never had the opportunity to do that. So I had, at a younger age, made up my money every summer, and whenever I was older, I cut grass and did lawn maintenance or did whatever I could do to make a dollar. My dad believed in, you know, idle minds get you in trouble, so he always had us something to do. I washed cars, I did anything, but really the lawn business was what I always did. I pulled my lawnmower around, went different places and made my money. So I was in North Carolina, and I was working as a district manager for Kaiser, and we were selling to a large company that was a landscape construction company, and over in the triangle of in North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, and that area. And he was the first person to become a millionaire in lawn care business. And so I'm in Wilson, North Carolina, and I'm reading this article in the magazine about him. And I said, well, you know, if he can do it, I can do it too. And so I called my dad and I said, Dad, I'm coming home. He asked me if I had lost my mind, and realized that maybe I had, but I was coming anyway. And so he started working with me, and sure enough, this is where we ended up. My wife was, you know, she thought I was crazy too, but she went with me and said, let's give it a run, and we did. She taught school, I did that, and we built a business, and I brought my brother into it, and the rest is history. We've had, I've had the time of, well, it is my life, so I reckon you could say I've had the time of my life for the last going on 40 years of doing this, and it's been wonderful. Wonderful experience. Influence on people is amazing that you can have in business.
So for those who don't know, what's the name of your business, and what's your brother's name?
Okay, my brother is Jimmy DeLoach Jr. He's Jimmy, and my name of a business is Tidewater Landscape Management. We've been in business since '84, and been chasing a dollar for a long time, but had wonderful experiences, and just know, you know, you look back and you realize. Second grade, I was a help with. I thought about it the other day. We were talking about this, and second grade, I helped direct traffic when we had a bad flood one time, and I thought that was just the greatest thing in the world. Opportunity to do something, you know, like that. Teachers weren't excited about it because my clothes were all wet, but I didn't think anything about it at the time. And they said, okay, that's good, and then they let me go. But in reality, my being in business gave me the opportunity to have a platform to be able to do the things I do, because those folks were willing to sacrifice so I could do what I did, because my brother and them kept the business running whenever I was county commissioner for 8 years, and then also ran for chairman and didn't win, but also became mayor and had an opportunity to do that. So it was a sacrifice on everybody's part, and it was the time of my life.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the politics and community service. When did you decide to run for county commission and really get more involved on the political level? What inspired you to make that move, or who inspired you to make that move? It
was my dad. I mean, my dad. I watched Dad do things for people that just you couldn't do if you were just a citizen. He was able to step in and do things and make things happen that we couldn't do, and it made a profound influence on me, and I realized that I can make a difference in this community. I can make a difference with people's lives if I'm in a position to do that, and that's the reason I did what I did. I told him, I said, if you ever get where you are willing to let me run, I'd like to run for county commissioner. And he told me, okay, go ahead, and I'll step aside, because he was in good position already, but he was going to let me have an opportunity, and I did, and we had a great run. had a great run with great people. Pat Monahan was working at the county at the time. That's how I met Pat.
Okay. So what years did you serve on county commission?
I read it was 92 to 2000, yeah, something like that.
Okay. And what was the geographical area that you represented?
I had West Side. I always talk everybody that, if that's God's country over there, the West Side. But the West Side's changed a lot. It's gotten smaller because there are a lot more people, so your district's gotten a lot smaller. Mm-hmm. But it was a big area whenever I was there. It covered all the West Side, and that started around Highway 80 to the Effingham line, and then all the way up to Pooler, Bloomingdale, on up 80, all the way to the Effingham line. So okay. It was a large area, geographical area. Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of different people, a lot of different styles, different people, their outlook, their thoughts. You go from, the poor house to the rich house, and it could be on the same street. Mm-hmm. And so it was a great time in my life. It was a wonderful time, but being mayor was the best.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that when you were at the county, you met Pat Monahan. What other county leaders and commissioners or staff did you work closely with during that time?
Pat, probably Russ Abel was probably another one. And so I had Pat Shea, was a county commissioner with me. Along with Pat, we had Joe Joe
Mahaney.
What was Joe's name?
Was it Mahaney?
Was it Chairman Mahaney? Yeah, Joe Mahaney. And then I had Billy Hare. He was a chairman when I was there. So I had both Joe Mahaney and Billy Hare. That's two contrasts in itself, but both did a great job. Both operated completely different, Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing you learn in politics is not necessarily what you do, it's how, what the results are, because they all achieve results. It just was a different way of doing it. And I learned that just watching those two, because it was a completely different style. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Joe was a populist kind of guy, and Billy was a business guy.
Okay. So during that time at the county, what do you think were some of the biggest challenges and some of the biggest accomplishments?
Well, the biggest one was a continuation of the 1% SPLOST program. We continued that program and had a great opportunity to, put in the roads. We pushed the Truman Parkway, finished up all of that while I was there, which was a big deal for us. Veterans Parkway was another one, and we basically tied the county together. My dad was there early when they first started, and actually helped lay out the roads, so that because he was with the power company and he went out and traveled to different people's houses, he knew how hard it was to get from one place to the other. Once you got to Abercorn Street and basically Whitfield, everything else was, you couldn't get anywhere else without having to go. I had to go, if I wanted to go to Southside, and I lived in Pooler, I had to go from Pooler to Garden City to the Savannah up here, take Whitaker to go over to the south side. So it was a roundabout way, because Hunter took out all of your traveling time until the mall came. So it really was a big deal with the roads we put in and developed, and the drainage program we developed was a big deal.
Seems fitting then that there's a road named for him.
Yeah, it is. It's just, it was a tribute to him and a tribute to the people of the West Side, because I think one of the true reasons is the fact that Dad realized that there's a lot of needs in the West Side. There's a lot of needs on the South Side. There's a lot of needs, for roads and so forth. And that's what you could spend your money on, drainage and roads, during that time it first started. But he was willing to say, okay, let's compromise here. You take care of Robert McCorkle. Robert McCorkle. Robert McCorkle was chairman. He had a bunch of needs over on Wilmington Island, needed roads, and so did the South Side. So Dad said, okay guys, I'm willing to do that. Let's get those done. And he said, but when something comes up, next time they come up, I want you to do this, help me out over here. And that's exactly what they did. They worked as a commission together. And that's the one thing that we really need to work on, in our community is working together. It's not, you know, if just don't worry about who gets the credit, just do the job, and things take care of themselves. Life goes on. There's a lot more things and more important than this job. But when you're in that job, try to compromise and make it where it's a win-win for everybody. And that's the one thing I tried to do while I was here, and that's the one thing we did as a council. And that's one thing I'm proud of about that council. They worked. Each of them had their specialty, and everybody worked with them.
Okay. So you did mention an unsuccessful run for county chairman. Before we move on to the city, you want to say anything about that campaign or that run?
Oh, well, I just got I reckon running, I like politics. You know, I like people. I just like people. So I got out there in the middle of that, and I was just having a big time. I knew, you know, Al was a good guy. I mean, let's face it, he had a pedigree as long as my arm. Things he had done.
This is Al Scott.
Yeah, Al Scott. Yeah, and ran against Al. We had a great run, and people decided they wanted Al instead of me. So that's okay. Life goes on. Okay.
Didn't deter you from running for mayor.
No, so I didn't.
What made you decide to throw your hat in for mayor, run for mayor?
Crime did. Okay. Crime was the issue at that time. Crime's the issue now. But crime was the number one reason. There were too many people getting killed, and people were complaining about it. And a group got together and they said, you know, we got to do something. Something's got to be done different. And that's whenever we ended up me being the guy that was going to run. I said I'll run, but I said I don't have the money to do that. But I said I'll give it a run, and I said I'll run as hard as anybody. And so we worked it out and put together a group, and that's what we did. And people of Savannah decided to give me a shot, and the rest is history. And it was great.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that history.
Yeah.
So you won, and you served from January 2006 to December 2019. What were your major initiatives and goals as mayor?
My main initiatives was housing. That was my biggest issue as far as Savannah was concerned. Still the same issue. That's the reason we ended up with money in the SPLOST program, the $10 million that we put aside for specifically because I talked to Martin Friday. Yeah, about it, and he said, you know, that would be amazing if we could do that. Now they got a lot more money, which is great, but at that time it was a goal we had to do, and that was probably the biggest thing. And improving the appearances of the neighborhoods was another big one. We did a lot of that, and we spent, you know, we set aside large chunks of money to make the difference, and it did make a difference. And you can ride in those communities today and see them anywhere over there on B Road, from you know, in that area. It's just a completely different place than it was. The values are up, the homes are up. People are proud to be there, but it's easy to fall back if you don't keep on it. But that was my major accomplishment, was that. And of course the crime issue was what we ran on and pushed to start with, and we had a good chief, and then we got another good chief, and he's great, and he's doing a good job. Just need to give him all the help he can get, because it's a tough job, and we got to go at it with the idea that everybody deserves a second chance. But if you do wrong, you need to be responsible for what you do. And if you do wrong, you need to be responsible for that. And you cannot not hold people responsible. They have to be responsible. In anything in life, you've got to be responsible for you. And if you're not, and if we don't hold people that way, we'll fall apart as a community and a country.
Okay, so tell us about some of the council members who served with you during your administration, your team, your.
I had the best team. You know, let's see, we'll start on that end there. We got Bill. Bill Durrance. I called him the Renaissance man, and I said that because Bill could do anything, talk about anything, and did both. but in reality, he was a great person to come up with great, large ideas and develop them. And then we had Tony Thomas. Tony wasn't excited about me. I was not exactly the great guy he was looking for, but Tony had his reasons for what he was, he worked hard for his community, I'll say that. I didn't necessarily like the way he did things, but that was his business, and that's okay too. We don't, there's a different way of doing things, but he worked hard. Then I had, who did I have next over there? I had Julian, he was over here. I had Julian Miller, of course he was, you have the council pro tem and then the chairman, he was the chairman. But Julian was, took care of police matters because he had been with the police department and understood the police department and really worked hard with the chiefs on making a better place as far as the police are concerned. Our ability to get a study of the payroll of not only the not only the people that work here, but all the police and all the firemen and all, to get everybody set up on a standard that everybody would be treated fairly and everybody made the money they needed to make was a big deal that we voted in just before we left. I thought it was a great thing we did, and it made our city as second to none as far as taking care of the employees of Chatham County. All right, let's get back to our people. John Hall. John Hall did a wonderful job for the 3rd District. John was, when we first come on, wasn't too sure about us, but then we got around and, had a cup of coffee, talked about it, and everything seemed to go along pretty well. And we had a great time. John was a wonderful person to work with. Van was good to work with. Van is a very good person in politics as far as his position. He did a great job. He did. He worked hard for his community. I can't, I have nothing but admiration for Van, what he's done, and I always said he did a great job. I always felt like I could do a better job, but that's me. I'm running for office, but that's not here nor there. He's doing a great job for Savannah and working hard at it. Miss Estella Shabazz, I gave her the opportunity to work with the people that were less fortunate. She did a great job with the empowerment of the people that were forming jobs, building jobs, doing businesses. She did a lot of work for her community to get that done and give them an opportunity. So it was great having her on too. She never would vote with me, but what the heck, she still worked hard for the community, and I'd go over there and aggravate her in the 5th whenever I was around. But in reality, she's doing her job, and that's all you can ask of her. Apparently she's doing a good job because she's been elected a lot more than I was. What can I say? Who got left?
Let's see, your other council members were Brian and Carol.
Oh, Carol Bell. I always said Carol was the one that she was the one that stirred the drink. Carol, because she was right there in the middle of it, and she probably had to be the strongest of the group because she was working with everybody. We would go somewhere that it was Carol Bell. She's working with all those white guys. Just that was what they would do to poke her, and which she would come right back at them. She didn't take it because she was there to do a good job, and we were there to do a good job. She didn't care what color we were, and we did a good job. Didn't matter what community we was here. We did a good job for Savannah, and I was proud of what we did, and I think we did the business people well, and I think with the business people doing well, the communities did well because the tax dollars flowed, and the tax dollars and the revenues that we put on have been amazing and really impacted this community, and given them an opportunity to do well with that. The coffers are a lot better off when we left than when we got here.
So, council has 3 employees that work directly for them. probably one of the most important being the city manager,
Yep.
because all of the other city employees work under them. And the city organization's been going through a shift as longtime employees retire. And so trying to find the right fit for city manager has been a challenge. Can you talk a little bit about how your administration tried to, work through that shift with the city manager position?
Well, whenever we came on, it was a difficult time because we were not interested in keeping the city manager that was here earlier, and a lot of friction with that went with it. And we tried to do as best we could to take care of not only the city manager but also the needs of Savannah, and tried to kind of find a balance to where we could satisfy the people that had been on council, as well as us, that new people that were coming on that had made the decision we were going to make a change. So we did that, and we as a council talked about what we were looking for and things we were looking for, and realized that the importance of getting a good man. And we looked at, had them go out and do the search, and it went well, and come up with these three guys, and it was good. It was really good interviews, and we all wrapped it up, all got together, and we all voted that it's going to be Rob Hernandez. But of course, Van had an idea about it, that he understood that because that's what he did over at the county. So we said, well, go down, interview him, interview the people around there, see what they say and everything. He went down into Florida and talked to those folks, and they said, great guy, and we brought him up here. And Rob was a prickly pear. Is that a good way to put it? That's a nice way to put it. I loved Rob, but he had a certain standard he was looking for, and he drove the city in that direction. I mean, we've got this building over here where all the administrative people come together over there. That is amazing. That would not have happened if it had not been for him. And then you got Brian Foster, pushing the idea, let's sell these excess property we got here. He brought up that bunch of money, put it together, and was able to help us kind of get through the rough times whenever we had the COVID stuff going on. So all those things you don't know about or don't pay attention to really during the course of things, but then in the end it comes back and impacts you. But Rob did a great job. I know we had a fire tax that I thought was just the best thing sliced bread, and I believe I was the only one. I don't even think my wife didn't even like it, you know what I'm saying? So my dogs wouldn't talk to me. I mean, dogs wouldn't sit with me in the chair or anything. I mean, it's bad, man. That was tough. But I kept pushing that fire tax, because I thought it was a good idea. And then lo and behold, you go over there and what's the county talking about? Fire tax. Why? Because only 2/3 of the people are paying. You can't run a business, you can't run a government on only 2/3 of the people are paying their way. Won't care what they say. And they can, all these weird people that are out there coming up with this idea of some kind of, they got different names for it, but they're trying to hold people up and say, you're going to give me $1 million and then I won't bother you anymore. You need to just set this thing up on some kind of system. Garden City's got a great one. My mama pays on her water bill every month. She pays $12.50. Now, it doesn't matter how much it is. Figure out what's the best way to do it. But everybody needs to pay for fire insurance or firemen or whatever you want to call it. But not everybody agreed to that, and that pretty well sunk my ship. Whenever I was running again, they'd bring it up. But that being said, it's something that'll come up later and it'll be out there. But Rob was a good guy and meant well, but he cut and run on us. That bothered me now. I don't like people cutting and running. But he did, but he saw the writing on the wall quicker than I did, so I reckon he decided with the group that might be in here later, that it might not be a good opportunity for him, so he left. But you know, there's always a reason for things to happen, and there's always a good outcome. And I think the person that they come up with the second time around with Jay is an excellent guy, and I'm really excited. I've had breakfast with him, I've talked with him a number of times, and I am really excited about that person. I think he's going to be a long-term guy, and I think he's going to do a great job for his community, and I think he's got the disposition and attitude to hang in there with us, you know, because he's got a rough horse to ride right now, and but I think he's the guy that's willing to do that.
So for the record, I'll say that's our current city manager. You're talking about Jay Melder.
Yeah.
But then to help bridge that gap,
Oh,
after
yeah.
Rob left, you brought in.
I brought in Pat Monahan. See, see, that's where everything comes around. You know, goes around, comes around. Pat and I worked together on all the SPLOST programs and all that we did down in, you know, the 8th Air Force and things like that. He has the most brilliant mind of anybody I know. I mean, really. He remembers, and not only does he remember, but he also studies. And he has such a great disposition, and you can only sit there and respect him for what he knows and the way he's able to, you know, get 2 and 2 to add up to 5. Never could do that in school, but Pat can make it happen. And he did it with us at the county. When I was on the county, we'd make money and we'd stretch money. Pat was able to do that here at the city and move things around, and he gets along with everybody. If you can't get along with Pat, you can't get along with the devil, you can't get along with the Lord, any of them, because that guy is a saint. He is a saint. And he did a wonderful job, and then whenever he got tired of it, and he did get tired of it because it lasted longer than it was supposed to. Michael Brown got the short end of this deal. He was not treated like he should have been treated by this council, and I'll say that on TV or wherever you want me to say. Some of the folks in here did not appreciate what he was doing, and they berated him because of it. But I want to thank him. If it ever sees it on TV, I want you to know, Michael Brown, I want to thank you for the citizens of Chatham County and for the citizens of Savannah. Thank you for the job you did, because you did not have to do it, and you did do it strictly for the love of Savannah and this community. And I want to thank you because you had the knowledge and the wherewithal to do that. And thank you for stepping up and doing that. And I apologize for anything that was not anything less than professional. You should have been taken care of like that, and I apologize if you weren't.
Thank you. So, as we close out the discussion about you being mayor, I think you alluded to maybe the answer to my next question is what was maybe like the biggest challenge of your time as mayor. Maybe that was the fire fee, but maybe it was something else.
No, you know, I think the toughest time is the same time we're all living in now, is the ability of people in different areas to take the race card and use it to the betterment of them or somebody else rather than the community. I feel like that's been done a great deal here in Savannah. I think, I know when I ran for office, it was used a lot. I know when I lost in office, it was used a lot. And I regret that. I hate that, because I remember whenever Floyd Adams got elected, it was a big deal for people in the white community to vote Floyd Adams. But Floyd Adams had the character and the reputation that people felt comfortable with that. Well, we've got people in the white community that is just as qualified to run for mayor, i.e. me, that should be respected enough to say, you know, he's a good guy. I can vote across lines. It's difficult. It's more difficult in the black community to vote across lines than it is in the white community. It's expected in the white community. It's not expected in the black community. And you will be ostracized if you do. You got anyone to look at it? Ask Carol Bell. And that's regrettable because she did a great job for all of Savannah. We all did, regardless of who was up here. We all did. And regardless of who's up here now, they all ought to be doing what's best for all of Savannah. And I think the people in the community should not try to use race as a reason to divide people, because you can't divide us. It's like my brother, he bought me a ship when we first started business. He brought a little ship like the, you know, one of them sailing ships with on it. And he said, you know why I got this? I said, no. He says, because it will not sink halfway. If it goes down, we all go down. That's the same way with this community. If we don't treat each other fairly and give each other an opportunity, regardless of what, we'll all go down. And I don't want that to happen. That's why I ran. I want us to be one community trying to get the job done. Regardless of what, I can't do a thing about what happened in the past. Cannot do a thing. I can say, sorry, there's been a lot of things that aren't fair to a lot of people. But I can tell you going forward, we need to unite as a community and do what's best for the people of the community. And I think if we do that, things will be great. And I think things are great. I think we've come through this, whatever you want to call it, pretty well. It's been difficult for a lot of people, but I think we've come through it, and I think our community is going to be better for it long term.
So I want to give you an opportunity to, you've mentioned your wife, tell us her name.
Yep.
And anything you'd like to tell us about her and your family.
Yep, I would. Of course, I married Cynthia Cheney. She's from Florida, and she followed me around the southeast with Kaiser Chemical whenever I was moving around with them, and hung in there with me. And we had two great kids, Tara and Adam, and we have four great kids, and four great grandchildren, not great grandchildren, grandchildren.
Four grandchildren who are great.
That's it, who are great, that's right. And I just can't say enough about being married to my wife. And I've said it before, I am what I am today because of her, because really, you know, guys will get to a certain level most of the time, and that's about where they'll be. But if they got a different person in there with them riding in the same car that's looking for better or want to do better, they'll do better a lot of times. And in that case, it could be a husband or it could be a wife, either one. But together, it's like Pat adding up 2 and 2 and making 5. When Cynthia and I got together, we added it up and it made 5. And that's what she's done for me. She has pushed me when I didn't want to be pushed, and I pushed because of wanting to do better for my family and to be what I should be as a husband, as a father, as a citizen of this community. And I did that because I know I'm expected to do that. And if you expect it out of people, they'll deliver. If you don't push and try to get people to do better, they won't rise to that occasion all the time. And I have been able to rise to the occasion with my wife. And I want to thank her. If it's on TV, you tell them, hey, I'm here because of my wife and my daughter, my son. They're all part of me. And my mom and dad, God knows I've been blessed with the best people in the world in my life. And all the way from the teachers on up to people in politics that I've been influenced by. It's just phenomenal. I can't say enough. I bet if I ended today, it's been a great life.
I think that's a good period for me to end on, unless you have anything you want to add.
That does it for me.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing your history with us.
Sure. I had a good time.
Good.
Yeah.